With the recent livestream covering the incredible content to expect in version 2.3, a lot more detail was revealed on our new limited characters alongside confirmation of the characters returning alongside them. Within the first phase, we are receiving Vivian's rerun alongside Lucia's debut, and in the second phase, we are receiving Ju Fufu alongside Yidhari. Now, both rerun banners have returned a lot sooner than expected, since there are still a few characters yet to receive a rerun prior to their release. But more importantly, their return has definitely made version 2.3 a lot more difficult to survive due to the amount of value each character holds. So with that being said, I am going to be going over the value both Vivian and Ju Fufu hold as of next version, whether the signature W engines are still worth considering, then I'll be wrapping it up with their overall value and who you may want to consider between the upcoming banners. As always, if you are interested in more ZenlessZoneZero content, would very much appreciate it if you could subscribe and drop a like if you enjoyed the video. Now jumping into this with the value Vivian holds within her kit, as an Ether Anomaly character she does hold incredible value for various compositions, considering she is mostly utilized as a secondary DPS that can deal significant damage on field and off field. With her core passive, it allows Vivian to deal a bloom damage whilst off field to enemies suffering from an attribute anomaly, which would be considerable instances of damage that scale off the anomaly proficiency of the original anomaly damage. So essentially, not only does that mean Vivian will synergize with anomaly characters the most in order to gain the most value from her kit, but the amount of anomaly proficiency her allies hold will directly impact the amount of damage she deals off field. Now in addition to that, Vivian will be capable of dealing damage over time, scaling off her attack as another instance of damage dealt off field, allowing her to be even more valuable as an off-field DPS. So despite there already being quite a few powerful anomaly characters in the game, just her core passive allows Vivian to stand out as one of the more valuable characters, since there are a lot more main DPS characters than secondary damage dealers. Though especially with the fact that she won't take up much field time since she does deal a lot of damage off field, it allows her to synergize extremely well alongside various anomaly main DPS characters. So that of course allows her to hold a massive edge over others, but then considering the fact she also provides damage buffs to her allies, specifically the fact she increases corruption and disorder damage dealt from her allies through her additional ability, it leads to even greater synergy with anomaly characters above all, simply due to the significance of disorder and the fact that Vivian will enable even more disorder damage to be dealt. So with all of that alongside the fact once again she can synergize with various anomaly characters such as Miyabi, Alice and Jane, which essentially means she has great versatility to synergize with a lot of characters currently and in the future, Vivian is going to be one of those that gains more value with their reruns due to there simply being more characters she can synergize with, leading to it being even easier to slot her into a team composition and provides more of a reason to consider her if you don't already have her on your account. As for the return of Ju Fufu, it really hasn't been that long since her initial release back in version 2.0, so immediately that does mean she hasn't really dropped in value, especially considering there hasn't been a newer stun character to release since her initial release. Now as one of our premium fire stun characters, Ju Fufu does hold a ton of value since she is also a character capable of dealing damage and daze on field and off field. So for main DPS characters that tend to use a lot of field time in order to complete their combos, Ju Fufu will be one of the best stun characters to use alongside them since she doesn't take up much field time. In addition to that, Ju Fufu is able to provide quite a few buffs to her allies through her core passive. Specifically, when in a Tiger's Raw state, she will provide a 20% bonus towards chain attack damage and a 40% bonus towards ultimate damage, but also a maximum of 30% crit damage bonus. So of course, characters that do specialize in dealing a ton of damage through chain attacks and ultimates would synergize the most with Ju Fufu. But alongside that, the additional ability is able to increase the maximum decibels for all characters in the squad by 1000, and when an attacker or rupture character uses their ultimate, they will gain an additional 300 decibels towards their ultimate gauge. So not only does the additional ability provide more flexibility in terms of when you can activate the ultimate, but the fact that she also allows for characters to activate the ultimate sooner than when alongside any other stun character is massive, considering the amount of damage certain characters are able to deal through their ultimates. So with that so far, it's clear to see Ju Fufu will synergize with characters such as Yuzuha and Evelyn the most, given those two would definitely make the most use out of the bonuses she provides via the core passive. But of course, as a universal stun character, she is still able to synergize with many other attackers and rupture characters currently and in the future. Now with all of that said, it's worth mentioning the buffs Ju Fufu provides will scale off her attack. So considering her signature W engine is the only option between S rank and A ranks with an attack percent main stat, it means it will be more difficult to provide the maximum effect of her buffs without the signature. Although, as I tend to say, you don't necessarily need to provide the maximum effect with these sort of buffs, considering they will provide enough to enable characters to deal significant damage and wouldn't perform that much better when receiving the maximum effect. So with that specific requirement aside, Ju Fufu is able to provide great value as an off-field universal stun character. But really, if you are considering her next update, it would be due to also having either Yuzuha or Evelyn on your account. Now in regards to the returning signature W engines, before anything, as always, a signature W engine will be the best in slot option for characters they are designed for, meaning if you do intend to use either Vivian or Ju Fufu long term, which likely will be the case since both characters do have great longevity, then you may as well consider also picking up their signature W engines. With Vivian's W engine in specific, the main stat provides a considerable 90 anomaly proficiency bonus and through the passive receives a 40% anomaly build-up rate bonus, which of course would be great as it ensures Vivian will trigger corruption even quicker, leading to more frequent disorders. Alongside that, whenever dealing ether damage, it leads to Vivian receiving an anomaly proficiency bonus stacking up to 120 anomaly proficiency. So pretty much Vivian's signature will be great since it enables a lot more anomaly damage to be dealt and for it to be much more frequent, which synergizes extremely well with her low field time burst DPS playstyle. However, it's worth mentioning Vivian can still perform very well when using alternatives such as the Weeping Gemini, since it essentially provides a massive amount of anomaly proficiency similar to the signature W engine. Especially if you have the W engine and max refinement, the Weeping Gemini would be a great alternative that certainly saves you from having to pick up the signature if you can't afford it. Now it's also worth mentioning there are some other options such as the Time Weaver, Flamemaker Shaker and the Fusion Compiler, which would each be solid alternatives but will of course lack the massive boost towards anomaly proficiency that Vivian desires most. Now on the other hand, with Ju Fufu's signature W engine, as I did mention earlier, due to the fact it is the only W engine amongst all S rank and A rank options with an attack percent main stat, it would then be one of those that you may want to consider more than other W engines in order to maximize the buffs she provides, or to simply allow building Ju Fufu's disk drives to be much less of a chore. The Roaring Furnace provides 30% attack bonus via the main stat and through the passive will increase the days dealt through various attacks by 28%. In addition to that, activating chain attacks or an ultimate that deals fire damage will increase the damage dealt by all squad members by 20% for 30 seconds. So not only will the W engine enable Ju Fufu to maximize the buffs she provides through her core skill, but will provide even more value to allies with increasing the damage they deal. So it is pretty clear how great the signature W engine would be for Ju Fufu herself and her allies. But with that said, there are some alternatives such as the Blazing Laurel, which can offer an immense amount of value, especially since it is made for another fire stun character, though utilizing it does depend on if you are using Ju Fufu with a fire or ice DPS. If not, then the passive wouldn't offer the greatest value and instead may find better use with the Hellfire Gears, which is a solid generalist W engine that provides energy regen when off field and increases the equipper's impact. Of course, it will be a bit more difficult to provide Ju Fufu with the attack she desires when using an alternative, but even without the signature, she should still be able to provide enough value for characters to deal great damage alongside dealing solid damage and days through her own abilities. Overall, version 2.3 was already expected to be completely stacked when considering the new limited characters alone, but now with Vivian and Ju Fufu returning, it leads to players really being spoiled for choice and may find it more difficult with who to prioritize. Although, immediately with the fact Lucia has been confirmed to be a dedicated rupture support which not only provides a sheer force bonus to allies, but increases max HP, heals, and increases the damage dealt through various buffs, it will certainly mean she will hold the most value amongst the upcoming banners since she is going to be a premium support. Following on with that, it really just depends on your account since both Ju Fufu and Vivian hold immense value. But one character is clearly made for anomaly compositions and the other is made for attackers and rupture characters. Above all, it really just boils down to if you have either Yuzuha or Evelyn and would require a stun character alongside them, then Ju Fufu would be priority due to her synergy with those two in specific, whilst also still being a solid stun option for DPS characters that consume a lot of field time. On the other hand, if you have characters such as Miyabi or Alice and don't have an anomaly sub DPS to pair alongside them, then Vivian would of course take priority due to the incredible value she holds as a secondary damage dealer. Then as for Yidhari, it would once again depend on if you have characters such as Miyabi and Yuzuha already, since if you do, then you don't necessarily need any other DPS due to endgame only requiring 2 different compositions to clear. If you don't, then Yidhari would of course be a fantastic DPS to consider, and especially since she is a burst rupture DPS with a HP drain mechanic, which does make her a bit more risky to play, but that would simply mean she will be capable of dealing absurd burst damage. So all in all, version 2.3 is going to be great for those that are looking to pick up characters with great longevity, considering each of the available characters do hold a ton of long-term value, and so ultimately means you can't go wrong with who you prioritize, just as long as you do have the characters they can synergize with and do bring out the most from their kits. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Would really appreciate it if you could subscribe for more ZenlessZoneZero content, and if you enjoyed the video, drop a like. Also, drop a comment down below on who are you likely picking up in version 2.3. And yeah, hope to catch you guys later.